What if a single moment of rage could erase years of loyalty? What if the proof of a heroic rescue looked exactly like the evidence of a terrible crime? This isn't just a legend from the misty mountains of Wales. It's a gut-wrenching lesson about one of the most dangerous human flaws, the impulse of the moment. This is the tale of Prince Llywelyn, his magnificent dog Gelert, and the single fatal mistake that led to an eternal regret. Our story begins in the 13th century with Llywelyn the Great, Prince of Gwynedd in North Wales. His most treasured companion wasn't his crown or his castle, but his dog, Gelert. Gelert was a giant, loyal wolfhound, a gift from King John of England, and he was the fierce, trusted protector of the prince's infant son. Gelert wasn't just a pet. He was family, a guardian watching over the most precious life in the kingdom. One day, Llywelyn decided to go hunting, leaving his infant son in the care of his wife and nurses, with Gelert standing guard as always. However, after a short while, the prince grew uneasy. The sound of the hunt didn't feel right, and a strange premonition urged him to return home. As he rode toward his castle, a wave of dread washed over him. The courtyard was eerily silent. Then Gelert bounded out to meet him. But something was terribly wrong. The dog's muzzle, neck, and forelegs were smeared with fresh, dripping blood. He wagged his tail, but his joy was met with the prince's mounting horror. An icy knot formed in Llywelyn's stomach. He pushed past the dog and rushed into the royal nursery. The scene that met his eyes was one of pure chaos. The cradle was overturned. Bedclothes were strewn about, drenched in blood. The room was deathly silent. His baby was gone. There was no sign of his son, only the blood-soaked evidence of a violent struggle. The evidence seemed absolute, and the grief was instant. In a blind fury, Llywelyn believed the unthinkable. Gelert, his trusted friend, had turned on his son. He had killed the heir to the throne. The thought was so monstrous, so betraying, that it consumed him entirely. Without a thought, without a moment of hesitation, Llywelyn drew his great sword. As Gelert looked up at his master, confused, the prince drove the blade deep into the heart of his faithful friend. Gelert's life ended with one last agonizing yelp, a sound of pain and confusion that would echo in the prince's mind for the rest of his life. But as that final sound faded, another sound emerged from the silence, a faint, soft cry. Llywelyn, his hands still trembling, frantically searched the mess. He lifted the overturned cradle, and there, beneath it, he found his infant son, safe and sound, sleeping peacefully. And beside the child, hidden from view, lay the enormous, lifeless body of a fierce wolf, its throat torn out in a brutal fight. The truth hit Llywelyn like a physical blow. The blood on Gelert was not the baby's, it was the wolf's. Gelert hadn't murdered the prince's son. He had saved him. The overturned cradle, the blood, the chaos, it wasn't a scene of murder, but of a heroic defense. Gelert had fought and killed a predator that had crept into the castle to attack the child. Llywelyn stood there, the bloody sword in his hand, looking from the dead wolf to the dying friend at his feet. He realized his tragic, irreversible error. He had killed his most loyal companion, the hero who saved his son, based purely on a terrifying, unchecked first glance. Overwhelmed by a remorse so deep it would shatter his soul, Llywelyn gave his heroic dog a royal burial. He buried Gelert in a grave near the castle grounds, marking the spot with a cairn of stones. He named the spot Beddgelert, which means Gelert's grave in Welsh. And it is said that from that day forward, Prince Llywelyn the Great never smiled again. This legend, whether it's historical fact or a timeless folk tale, carries a powerful warning that is just as relevant today as it was 800 years ago. It teaches us about the dangers of acting on impulse and the importance of seeking the whole truth. Let's break down the psychology here. The first lesson is what I call the 90% lie. Think about what Llywelyn saw. He saw 90% of the truth. The blood, the overturned cradle, the missing baby. Everything his eyes told him pointed to a single horrific conclusion. but he missed the critical 10%, the hidden baby and the dead wolf under the cradle. Our first emotional instinct, especially when we're scared or angry, is often based on this 90% lie. It's the incomplete picture that our brain rushes to fill in with our worst fears. The lesson from Gelert is to always force yourself to seek that last 10% of information before you react. Before you send that angry text, before you quit that job, before you accuse a friend, ask yourself, am I seeing the whole picture, or just the blood and the overturned cradle? The second lesson is about the irreversible price of impulse. Llywelyn's mistake cost him his best friend, and his action could never, ever be undone. He could bury Gelert with honors. He could name a town after him, but he could never bring him back. This story shows us the danger of what we might call the rage delete in modern life. It's the scathing email we send in a fit of anger, the cruel words we can't take back, the relationships we sacrifice, or the opportunities we ruin simply because we let a flash of anger or fear take control. Llywelyn's sword was quick, but his regret was eternal. Our words and actions can be just as swift and just as permanent. The story forces us to ask, is this moment of anger worth a lifetime of regret? And finally, the legend teaches us that loyalty is truly tested in crisis. Gelert's ultimate loyalty, his true nature as a protector, only became visible after his death. Llywelyn had years of trust built up with this dog, but in one moment of extreme crisis, he let fear destroy all of it. If you have trust in your life, whether it's with a partner, a family member, a colleague, or a friend, don't let a single moment of confusion or fear tear down years of established faith. Patience is the ultimate measure of trust. When things look bad, true trust isn't about believing what you see. It's about having faith in the character you know. Llywelyn failed that test. He trusted his fear more than he trusted his friend. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation where your emotions are running high, where you see the blood and the overturned cradle, remember the story of Gelert. Take a breath. Look for the last 10% of the story. Question your impulse, and honor the loyalty you've built. Because some mistakes can't be fixed with an apology. Some yelps are final, and some regrets last forever. Thank you so much for watching and for joining me on this journey into the Legend of Gelert. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales that make us think. Let me know in the comments if you've ever faced a Gelert moment in your own life. Stay thoughtful, and I'll see you in the next video.